Well, hello, welcome back my tarot team to Signs on Sunday on Timsy's Naked Tarots. Don't worry, Timsy is not naked, as you can see. It's the tarot reads are naked. I strip them back to their basics. I take out the astrology. Well, I then add extra stuff. I put in runes and the like. But yeah, I basically try to strip astrology out because, yes, it's in there, but not quite the way it's used. Okay, so anyway... Welcome if you are new. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer to Signs on Sunday. Signs on Sunday is where I take a deep delve into signs. Okay, signs being things you see which are meant spiritually to tell you something. Sometimes these signs can appear to you in dreams. Sometimes they appear to you on images on the back of trucks, billboards, advertisements. Maybe it will be a snatchet of a conversation you hear as someone's walking past. It doesn't really matter where you get these signs from. It's something that's going to sort of stand out to you and you're going to think, oh, I should really take note of that. Like, for example, feathers. You see feathers everywhere. You walk around, you can see them left, right, centre. Okay? Excuse me for a second. Had a hair in my mouth. So you see them left, right, and centre. You see them everywhere. Now, when a feather becomes a sign is when you decide you're going to take a slightly different route home. Yeah? And then you find a feather on the way. Well, you went that different route to find that feather. Okay? The feather then being a sign. You research into what that feather means. Because various different feathers means various different things. Check out my feather one in the All Signs note in the Signs on Sundays playlist. Okay, that all being said, today we are up to we are dealing with orc. Okay? Orc, orcs, ogres, as opposed to a certain extent, goblins, hobgoblins, and the like. But generally speaking, I'm categorizing them all into orc. The reason I'm saying orc like orc is because the one I'm actually going for is orc with a K, not a C. And because orc with a K is a bit of an older word for them. Okay, I found a little bit more information about orcs, sort of spiritually speaking, with a K than I did with a C. And I found a lot more information about ogres than orcs. But most of that was in dreams. There weren't many out and out spiritual interpretations. Okay, another hair. Right, mental note, really don't trim the beard just before doing a Signs on Sunday. Okay, so shall we crack on with it? Well, orc is this is a bit of a sort of not an ad hoc one. It wasn't what I was planning to do today. I was planning to go for obelisks today. My backup was orca, okay, killer whales. But I'd looked through my little list of what I'd done, and my plan is to do this 3 times round. And we're dealing with creatures, physical, real creatures, orcas, eagles, the like. Mythical creatures, like the Leviathans, orcs, and I'm trying to think of one I've actually done, which is a mythical one. I don't know, another mythical one. Hippogriffs. I haven't done hippogriffs, but there you go. And objects or things. Okay, so I've done itching, what are the spiritual signs of itching. I was going to do obelisks for today. But I noticed I didn't actually have much in the way of mythical creatures, so I thought I'd better do a mythical creatures one. So I've done orcs. When I first started thinking about orcs, the first sort of orcs what came to my head were sort of our modern day fantasy orcs. Okay, the things you might see in Lord of the Rings if you play games like Hero Quest, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer 40,000, anything like that, you would see these orcs, which are green, brutish, evil-looking things. Okay, in Lord of the Rings, the orc are basically elves which are being tortured and corrupted by evil and turned evil. So basically, an orc is just an evil elf. In things like and the roleplay games like Dungeons and Dragons and Hero Quest and the things, they are just your stereotypical evil thing. Okay, but then you get like a few other smitterings of films where orcs are portrayed slightly different. I didn't think of this when I was writing my notes, but there's a film called Bright, yeah, with Will Smith in it, and an orc. Sort of fantasy creatures have come to our planet, elves, orcs, all that like. I can't quite remember why they're on our planet, but they have come to our planet. And, well, yeah, orcs tend to be in that sort of like the criminal underground, but there is an obsession, someone who breaks the mold. Yeah, and this is the particular orc who joins the police force and teams up with Will Smith in the film. I'm not going to tell you much more than that, just in case you ain't seen the film and you want to go and see it now. But when you look at this particular orc, where you go and they've broken the mold and they're slightly different, you start to see the more humane side of orcs. Okay, they're family. Yes, they might be quite vicious and quite violent, but that's just their culture. When it comes down to their family, they are very fiercely loyal with their family, and they look after the clan and so on. In this particular case, he's a bit of an outcast because he's done something. He's gone against the status quo, and he's done something different. In the film World of Warcraft, again, you start to see the other side of orcs. Okay, you see how they can be nice and friendly, and it's just the fact that their look, their appearance, their culture is all alien to us. We see it as bad. We see it as evil. They see how we work and how we look as bad and evil. Okay, so it depends on what perspective of an orc you are standing on. So my first sort of spiritual thoughts about orcs was misunderstanding. Okay, yes, they might look brutish, they might scare you, but once you get past that alien exterior and get inside, you might find that there's common ground for you to share, and somewhere where you can actually start to build an understanding, a friendship, maybe. The other thing I thought about was sort of violence, warcraft, or war, and conflict, and being brutish. Now, as a spiritual sort of thing, I actually started thinking of yourself with this. And although the Hulk isn't actually represented as an orc, I've never sort of noticed. I've read a few comics in my time. I've seen a few films when the Hulk is in it. He's never referred to as an orc, as far as I know. Yeah, but he fits into the category of orc. He fits into that stereotype of orc. He's big, he's brutish, he's violent, he's green. Okay, but between the Hulk and Banner, they are always within a struggle because they're both occupying the same moment and space in time in the one vessel of Banner's body. Okay, so there is an inner conflict between him and Hulk. You could look at that as the nice and nasty side of you. Okay, we all have a nasty side. We all have a side of us which we regret we let out. Normally, it comes out when people have been drinking. Okay, it's the side of you which might make you stand up and fight for someone else. It's the side of you what might make you not run away from something you're scared of. Stand there and confront it. So, yeah, that is kind of like what I started thinking about. And as I also did, it also sort of means that you have to possibly look deeper into yourself. Perhaps you put on a Dr. Banner front, but really you actually got a lot of Hulk within you, and you have to look in a lot deeper to find some common ground between your violent side and your placid side. And because after all, the universe is striving for balance throughout its existence, and so are we. Yeah, that's all we really want, just to be balanced people. When we're out of balance, that's when we get taken advantage of if we're too good, or be complete and utter arseholes if we're too bad. Okay, so tell me about your thoughts on orcs. Drop it in the live chat, because this is, after all, a premiere, and I will be in the chat to talk to you about this if you want to. Or drop it in the comments as well. That would be just as good, and I can get back to you, well, within my own time then. I don't have to be live and doing it. I can just get it whenever you drop a comment, which is great. Okay, now that was my little segue into just turning over the page of my notes. So I did look on the internet for the spiritual meaning, and it was pretty fruitless. Okay, there wasn't anything what just was an out and out spiritual meaning of the word orc, or orcs, or orc in general, or orcai, or anything like that. But I did have a little bit more joy when I started searching offspurs of orc. And thinking about the whole modern fantasy world, you have ogres, okay? And ogres I kind of see as like a larger cousin of an orc, depending on what types of fantasy lines you go down. Or when I say fantasy, I'm talking about books and the like. And when I'm talking about orcs, I'm talking about all types of them, okay? So orcs, ogres, hobgoblins, goblins, snotlings. There you go, just showing you my knowledge of weird, wonderful fantasy creatures. So yeah, I'm covering the whole basis. Trolls, I suppose, to a certain extent as well. So yeah, I had a little bit more fruit on the orc or the ogre. Okay, so but as I said, it was all just dream interpretations, not actual spiritual meanings, spiritual understandings of them. So I feel for spiritually, it's kind of what you make of it. From the dream interpretations, I will put it out there, on a general rule of thumb, it's about yourself. An ogre, orc, anything like that. In the dreams, it's generally indicating, meaning, suggesting something about you. Okay? It may be literally a projection of that violent side you have. Okay, so the first thing what sort of appeared quite prominent on the dream interpretations of ogres and orcs and the like was inner fears. Okay, which, yeah, it's understandable. An orc's a big, scary creature. You would have inner fears. Self-discipline issues. Okay, so for instance, if you are this person who is trying to give up smoking, for example, and you keep telling yourself, oh yeah, after I finish this pack, but then the following morning there's always one in there just to start you off on the day, so then you go and buy another pack, and you might start having dreams or getting signals and synchronicities of orcs and ogres, because this is your willingness to quit, but your unwillingness to actually take action on quitting. Yeah, part of you wants to, part of you don't. You become in conflict with yourself. Okay, problems with parenting-child relationships. Okay, and this is again a two-way swinging pendulum. In some cases, you may be the parent and you may have problems with your children, or you may be a child, no matter what your age is, and you have problems with your parents and the relationship is strained or whatever. Okay, leaving things to the last minute. Apparently, sometimes ogres within dreams can be indications of this. Remember, these are all just general interpretations. Take them how they seem for you. Take them for your situation. As I say, with all signs and synchronicities, what it might appear for me might be something totally different for you. Okay, losing your spiritual path is another one, which it could be. If you can imagine you're in a dream, you're walking the familiar path, which is your spiritual path, and then you, I don't know, start walking in the dark and you lose your way, and then you're in a dark, dingy wood, and then there's a big ogre appearing. You've come off your path. Okay, you're lost, you're confused, you're scared, and an ogre has manifested itself. Now, it could be the fact that you chose to walk in the dark, knowing that you might come off your path. In the real world sense, that would be someone had tempted you and you knew it was wrong, but you went for it anyway. Okay, so dreaming of a friendly ogre, this would represent actually confronting or even to a certain extent, befriending whatever scares you. Okay, so if you're scared of spiders and you're dreaming of a friendly ogre, this could be actually saying that spiritually and physically and mentally, you are now prepared to actually embrace this fear and possibly even hold a spider on your hand. Maybe even get one as a pet. Who knows? Yeah, so yeah, it's sort of maybe even befriending your fear. Dreaming of being an ogre. This actually indicates that perhaps you need to dive a little bit deeper into yourself and be a little bit more empathic for yourself. Yeah, actually feel how your, I hate to say the word, inner child feels. Okay, and kind of like reattach yourself. It's almost like in the your soul and your body are separating, and you need to sort of dive in and feel why the soul is separating from you, and try to put yourself in its shoes and vice versa. Not the easiest thing in the world to do, but that's what the dream would be indicating. If you are dreaming that you are the ogre, you're actually scaring yourself. Okay, and you need to feel a little bit more empathy on, well, you might be very empathic for everyone else, but you might neglect you quite a lot. Right, dreaming of an unknown amount of ogres. So for an example here, you're getting signs within signs of your dreams now. You see signs that there are ogre footprints, broken branches, big piles of stinky shit, whatever it may be, but you don't get an amount of how many there are. Yeah, so you know that you are going to be confronting an ogre or a group of ogres, but you don't know how many. This represents the pressures of how you relate to the current environment you live in at the moment. Okay, obviously, eventually you will find out how many ogres there are, and that would be an indication of how great or lesser the pressure is, but that's kind of how it's working. Being chased by an ogre in your dreams would indicate you're falling into negative ways. This could be like coming off your divine path. It could be going down a path you know is going to lead you into trouble, but you're going to risk it anyway, that sort of thing. It could just be negative ways of thinking. Oh, this isn't going to work, that ain't going to work, I never have enough money, why don't I have the love of my life, blah, yaddy, yaddy, yaddy. There's a reason I try to use yaddy, yaddy, yaddy more in my videos and my things I do. It's because apparently the 3 blahs equates to 666, and that could offend some people. Okay, yaddy 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 don't equate to 666, and it's also a northern saying, I think, from England, which basically means blah blah. Okay, so where did we get to? Negative ways of thinking, feeling, being, acting, and the like. The size of the ogre also has a direct relationship on the size of the problem. The smaller the ogre is, the smaller the problem is. The bigger the ogre is, the bigger the problem is. And if you want to start interpreting that with other signs within your dream, for instance, you might get a big shadow of an ogre coming towards you, but then when the ogre turns the corner and you actually see the ogre, it's just a little one casting a big shadow. Thus saying you think it's a big problem, but it's actually a small problem, and vice versa. You could have a tiny shadow of an ogre because of the way the light is casting from behind the ogre, and when it turns the corner, it is actually massive. So you might be getting indications that little thing you thought was just a tiny little problem, well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Go and check out the rest of it. Ogres in your dreams could also signify someone or something is jeopardizing your growth, either spiritually, physically, religiously, mentally, or any other way. Okay, so again, it'd be something you would then have to start looking into. When you wake up, you remember that there was just an ogre in your dream, and you, oh, okay, what could be in my life which is actually stopping me, holding me back? Okay, ogres and orcs are often seen as being creatures that eat humans' flesh, and this would suggest cannibalism, because a lot of the stories of ogres particularly, and the descriptions of they're described as just large grotesque men, okay, which suggests they're actually human at some point, and they have, I don't know, mutated over time. But I don't literally mean if you're dreaming of ogres and you're craving the taste of man flesh. But I would just like to point out at this point, like what I do in my tarot reads from time to time, there are literally hundreds of different meanings for hundreds of different words. Okay. When we talk about cannibalism, we're thinking about humans eating humans. Okay. But people will quite often cannibalize an old car to make a new car work, or to repair a new car. They might take a gear stick of an old car, which is no longer working, and put it on, and it's called cannibalization. Okay, so the actual word cannibalization or cannibalism or cannibal, yeah, doesn't necessarily mean eating man flesh. And the sort of sayings like, I'm going to eat you, or I can eat you right up, or I want to really sink my chops into you. These are all terms which are quite often used in our bedroom play. Okay, so we're not actually physically talking about eating someone, but it's kind of like mimicking what we might do while we're eating. Okay, that hopefully was graphic enough for you to understand what I'm getting at there. So possibly, perhaps when you are seeing an ogre and it's representing cannibalism, so for instance, you're seeing the ogre eating or preparing food, yeah, could indicate that you are about to or need to go through some sort of radical change in life, but you're going to need old parts of or parts from your old life to actually make the new life work. Okay, it's not going to be a complete 100% change, but you might need, I don't know, 10% of your old life to go with the 90% of your new life to make it all work nicely. Okay, orcs in different cultures we'll go to next. Now, and I apologize if I butcher this, Trioline, okay, an orc was a demon from their folklore, and this is where you get the spelling with a K. The orc would live in the mountains or rock holes or valleys, and would quite often warn nobles of hunting game or game hunters. Okay, so like poachers, it's kind of nice. It will warn the nobles of the land about people who are poaching on their land. Or it would sometimes be very savage to cows. Now, again, I didn't write this bit in my notes, but then actually just saying that out loud would make me, why would it be just savage to cows? Yeah. And why would it talk to the nobles and warn the nobles about people hunting game on their land? Well, it kind of makes it sound like it's a nature demon. Okay. Perhaps even eating grass. And that's why it's savage to cows, because the cows eat the grass, and we breed a lot of cows, more than would naturally occur if we were not here to do it. So it's kind of competing for its food source, perhaps, and it's loving the animals in its woodlands and its glades and things. So it's not happy about the hunters hunting the apples. The apples? Well, hunters hunting the apples. William Tell, he hunts apples off people's heads. So he's not happy about hunters hunting the animals. So he tells the landlords and the nobles. Okay, from the Germanic folklore, an orc in a dwarf form is a very well-behaved house spirit that resides in your wine cellar. Now, house spirits are numerous beings. You find them in all sorts of very Germanic type of cultures. The Scandinavians, the Norse had them. So basically, yeah, where the language emanates from some sort of German root, including English, then, yeah, you would have, in times gone past, had house spirits. These would be the things that hide your keys now. Okay, if you believe that there is actually an entity that hides your keys and it's just not you being forgetful, it would be your house spirit. Now, you can entertain your house spirits. You can leave food out for your house spirits. You can talk to your house spirits. The nicer you are to your house spirits, the less mishaps will happen in your house. They actually kind of help you in your house on a spiritual sense. So they will protect you spiritually in your house as well from external evil energies coming towards you. So an orc is a little house spirit what lives in your wine cellar. In modern day interpretation of that, your drinks cabinet or your liquor cupboard. I have a liquor cupboard, and I suppose I better start leaving a little something in there for my orc. Okay, so from the area of Verona, I think it's called, or Verona, an orc is a tall human type person who's covered in horsehair and has horse hoofs instead of feet. And it doesn't it's not a bad creature. It's not menacing or anything like that, although the appearance of it might scare you a little bit. It literally lives for practical jokes. It goes around, it plays practical jokes on you, and yeah, once it's actually had its fill of humour from your expense, he would just disappear in a puff of apparently purple smoke and say, and again, I'll probably butcher this because I think this might be Italian-ish, but I'm not entirely sure. You can correct me on this in the comments if you want. It says, Ti-ho, fatta. Okay, which means in the local dialect, I fooled you. Okay, so if that is your local dialect and I got it right, if I got it wrong, berate me in the comments. It's fine. Send me an email with a voice note attached to it telling me how to pronounce it properly, and I will try to in future. Okay, so from there I moved on to our friends in the Norse. In the Norse, our friends, the Old Norse. Okay, the ancient Norse. Where it said orcs, being orcs, with a K, no, with a C, were evil, ugly creatures, and their curiosity to eat human flesh. So it kind of suggests that they do eat human flesh, but it's not because they prefer it or they want it. It's just a case that they're trying it to see if it's nice. A little bit like a tiger shark will try anything. And that's why it kills people more often than not, because it's curious. It wants to see if it's food or not. Okay, and the orc is curious. It wants to see what it can eat, what it can't eat. Okay, which kind of makes it like slightly animalistic, I know. But also on top of that, you have the Germanic orc with a K, which is your house elf. No, your house spirit. Okay, so Harry Potter slipped out of me there for a second. Oh, Dobby. Okay, I couldn't really find anything else in any other culture for orcs. There are things about ogres in other cultures, but they all cover the same sort of thing. Yeah, they're big, brutish things, and they normally scare people. They eat flesh, and the like, a bit like the orc in the Norse mythology. So, if you come from any other part of the world, Australia, Asia, China, I know that's in Asia, but I'm pinpointing closer, India, the Philippines, Africa, anywhere in Africa, and you're watching this, and you have some sort of folklore, spirit tale, mythology of something you feel resembles an orc, but just because of language barriers, basically, it doesn't translate as orc. Okay, then feel free to drop that in the comments. Let me know, and I will incorporate it into my readings and things in future, because I do read signs. So if someone starts talking to me about I don't know, a Jabberwocky, I know that's not an orc, I know that is actually a different type of folklore thing, then I will know what they're actually talking about. Okay, I did find, though, in my research that the word orc is thought to originate from the Italian word orco, which is basically the meaning of ogre, demon, or demonic monster. So there you go. So you can add that to your signs and things when even if you hear the word orco, then that's what it means. Okay, I thank you very much for watching. Feel free to drop in anything in the comments you want, anything in the live chat you want, even though we're now coming up to the end of the video, so there won't be much more of the live chat to go. Thank you for watching. I just said that, didn't I? Hopefully you enjoyed this little enlightenment of orcs. To be quite honest, it could be a bit of an eye-opener for you, because there was not much on the internet, what I found anyway. Maybe you will dive deeper than I did and find something. If you do, please feel free to come back to this video and drop it in the comments with a link, and I will read up on it. Yeah, put anything in the comments you like. I don't mind. Obviously, we are going to be dealing with the next letter in the alphabet, which is P, I think, after O. Again, I'm not going to do my couple of second thing and count through the alphabet to find out which one it is. I'm not the best with writing, reading, and alphabets. So, and as a lot of my friends from other countries will tell you, I'm not very good with language either. Be it my native language, or I'm very good with sarcasm, but that is my first language. But anyway, yeah, so thank you very much. I hope to see you all soon on another video. Feel free to get into communication with me in any way, shape or form you can. If you actually know where I live, feel free to pop round for a cup of tea. I'm not going to tell you where I live because I might actually get someone come round for a cup of tea. So I'll catch you all later and have a wonderful week.